In today's video, we're going to be going over my updated top 30 draft prospects for the 2023 NBA Draft. Throughout the course of the season, and especially through the NCAA Tournament, my rankings have changed quite a bit, so I just wanted to put this video out to update my top 30 and take a closer look at some fallers and risers. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And with that being said, let's get into the rankings. My number 30 player is the 6'8" guard out of the G League Ignite, Sidy Cissoko. Cissiko's been on a lot of people's draft radars for quite a while now. I think it's mainly due to his stature, being a guard at 6'8" with long arms, really good athlete. His numbers really don't jump out to you, averaging around 11, 3, and 3. But the physicality that he brings is something that you can't teach, and I think that'll go a long way. He struggled shooting the 3 ball, sitting right around 30%, but I like his form, and I think it looks like something he'll be able to improve. My number 29 player is the 6'8" forward out of Kansas, Jalen Wilson. Wilson has been incredible this past season at Kansas, winning the Big 12 Player of the Year and also making an All-American team. He is older, right around 23 years old at the moment, but I think that that's going to help him come in and help a team today rather than them banking on his upside for the future. I love him in this late first round range because it can get him to a team where he can go and help him be effective early on. My number 28 player is the 6'6" guard out of UConn, Andre Jackson Jr. Jackson's a really unique player, mainly because his offensive game is really underdeveloped. He's been a pretty bad shooter in his career at UConn, but I think his athleticism and playmaking and overall just feel for the game is really going to help him in the NBA. I think teams are going to want him to come in and be a spark plug, mainly on the defensive end, but I also could see him being a very good playmaker at the NBA level. My number 27 player is the 6'6" guard out of Arkansas, Ricky Council IV. Much like Andre Jackson, Council has struggled quite a bit this season with jump shooting, but I think everything else has been spectacular. I think that he could go to a rebuilding team and help lay the groundwork there, or get drafted to a contender and also help. The thing that really blows me away with him is, outside of his overall game, is just his power and athleticism, and I think that that's going to translate really well to the next level. My number 26 player is the 6'9" forward/big out of Indiana, Trayce Jackson Davis. Jackson Davis has been one of my favorite college players in recent memory, and I've been watching him for 4 straight years, being an absolute killer. And especially this year, averaging over 20 and 10, being named an All-American. I think Jackson Davis can be a career role player, and I think that that's going to be quite enough for teams to take him in this range. His jump shooting is really non-existent, but I think everything else he does and brings to the team, most NBA teams would love to have it. My number 25 player is the 6'4" guard out of Michigan, Kobe Bufkin. Bufkin's improvement from his freshman to sophomore season was pretty remarkable this year, and I think that bodes well for his long-term development in the NBA. I don't think necessarily that he's a mind-blowing prospect, but a lot of people like him, and I think that teams are going to be dying to get him, especially if he falls this far in the draft. My number 24 prospect is the 6'6" wing/guard from Metropolitans 99, Bilal Coulibaly. The first thing I want to say is that I have no idea if I'm saying his name right or not, so we're just going to go with Coulibaly. But this is one of the bigger late risers in the draft so far this season, and it's easy to see why. He's 6'6" with great athleticism and great physical build with insanely long arms, and I think his defense and able to attack off the dribble with such a big wingspan is really easy translatable, and since he's so young, I think teams are going to be more than happy to take a chance on him and taking him, especially if he falls this low in the first round. My number 23 player is the 6'10" forward out of the G League Ignite, Leonard Miller. I really have not been a huge fan of Miller's game over the past few seasons, but just solely looking at his improvement from last year to this year has been really impressive, and I think that he's going to keep expanding his game and translating it to a higher level in the NBA. I also think playing in the G League helped expose him to a higher level of competition and just kind of gives him a step ahead of a lot of the other prospects in this range. My number 22 prospect is the 6'6" guard out of Indiana, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Hood-Schifino is my first NCAA freshman on this list, and I think teams looking for a big primary ball handler are going to love to get a chance to take Hood-Schifino. His offensive game has been pretty impressive at Indiana in his 1 year there, but I don't think it's anything too mind-blowing, which caused him to fall a little bit on my list. But I think a lot of teams would be super happy to get him, and as a Thunder fan, if he fell this far, I'd love to take a swing at him. My number 21 prospect is the 7'1" big out of Duke, Derek Lively II. Lively's probably my biggest faller for my top 30, but I still think the upside's there, and being 7'1" with the athleticism that he has, I think really bodes well for his future and his ability to improve. His start of the season was extremely worrying at Duke, but in the past few months of the season, I think he's really raised his stock back up and shown the ability to be a top-notch rim defender at the NBA level. My number 20 prospect is the 6'7" wing out of Duke, Dariq Whitehead. Much like Lively, Whitehead really struggled out the gate at Duke, and I think it looked like he really lost a step athletically following the injury coming into the season, but he still has shown his ability to attack the rim and hit pull-up jump shots, and I've been impressed with his three-point shooting this season. He started the season as undoubtedly a top 10 guy for me, but falling this low I think does hurt him, but the upside's still there for sure. My number 19 player is the 6'7" wing out of Pepperdine, Maxwell Lewis. I think that Lewis has the potential to be this draft's small school steal for some team, whoever may take him. I think his playmaking definitely does need to improve, but the rest of his game is so well-rounded that I think that this will come with time. I do think he needs to be drafted to the right system in order to succeed in the league, but I believe in his upside, and I think that a lot of teams are going to be willing to take a chance on his potential to see if he could be that steal that I think he is. My number 18 prospect is the 6'8" wing out of Michigan, Jet Howard. I believe that Howard is definitely one of the best shooters in this whole draft, if not the best. Standing at 6'8" and being able to shoot the ball like he does is definitely going to help him in the NBA. The one thing I wish that he could improve on is something that I'm not positive if he's going to be able to, which is his athleticism. I think that he's a solid athlete, but I don't think he uses it super well, and this could hurt him with being versatile at the next level. My number 17 player is the 6'6" wing out of Ohio State, Bryce Sensabaugh. Sensabaugh was definitely one of the more impressive freshmen in this year's class, and I think that his game will translate pretty well to the NBA. He's a really efficient jump shooter, and his calling card is without a doubt his mid-range pull-up, and I think that that's going to translate really well to the next level. I think he has the potential to be a top 10 guy in this draft, but I just feel like there are other people with higher upside, and that's why he's fallen this low on my rankings. My number 16 player is the 6'6" guard/wing from France, Rayon Rupert. Rupert is still a very raw prospect overall, but he has great stature and feel for the game. He's 6'6" with a 7'3" wingspan, so even if the offensive game takes a little while to develop in the NBA, I think he's going to be able to be pretty impactful very early on, if not even his first year on the defensive end, just because 7'3" wingspan is going to be disruptive out there on the perimeter. My number 15 player is the 6'5" guard from UConn, Jordan Hawkins. A lot of people got introduced for the first time to Jordan Hawkins through the NCAA Tournament. I have him as my second best shooter in this class, and I think his ability to shoot so well off the move and even off the dribble at certain times, I think that's going to translate really well to the NBA, especially with how the game's played today. I do think he's going to need to add a little weight to be a better driver on the offensive end, but primarily to help with defense. I would be more than happy to take a swing on this guy, primarily because of his offensive and scoring upside. My number 14 player is the 6'5" guard out of Arkansas, Nick Smith Jr. I still have Smith Jr. in my lottery, mainly from high school tape, and just seeing what he's capable of whenever he's at full strength. Unfortunately, he does have injury problems, and I think that really set him back at Arkansas. I thought it was a pretty underwhelming freshman season, but you know the upside is there and you still catch glimpses of it at times. I don't think he'll fall outside of the lottery, but if he did, I wouldn't think that that's insane. My number 13 player is the 6'9" forward out of South Carolina, G.G. Jackson. Jackson reclassified and went to South Carolina a year early, and I think that really changed how people viewed him, because he was one of the higher ranked players in his class before reclassifying, and I think he showed enough moments at South Carolina that ranking was legit, but you know, it's just weird seeing a player that really shouldn't be playing in the NCAA and then coming in and being the first option for a team and kind of just letting him do whatever he wants to do. This will definitely be a pick aimed for the upside, but I think Jackson has the potential to pan out in the NBA, and teams I think would be smart to be willing to wait a few extra years to see that happen. My number 12 player is the 6'7" guard/wing from the overtime elite, Azar Thompson. Azar has been ranked a lot higher on most people's boards, and I understand why. His athleticism is pretty crazy, one of the better athletes we've seen in a draft in quite a while, but same thing for his brother. I'm just really skeptical about him playing in overtime elite, because if you've watched any of those games, they're glorified pickup games and he's playing against kids. And, you know, I hope he does well. I hope that his skills translate, but I just really don't think he's shown many translatable skills to the NBA for him to be ranked any higher on my board. My number 11 prospect is the 6'4" guard from Baylor, Keontae George. George averaged over 15 points a game in the Big 12, which in my opinion is the toughest conference in college basketball. And he struggled at times with efficiency, but I think he showed enough to be able to score at a high level and against much bigger defenders than he is, standing at only 6'4". I don't think he'll be a primary ball handler in the NBA, but I think he's good enough to be a secondary option for that and brings enough scoring to fit well with, I think, basically any other primary ball handler that's in the league today. Getting into my top 10, my number 10 prospect is the 6'8" wing from Kansas, Grady Dick. In my opinion, Dick is by far the best shooter in this class, and he shot great percentage at Kansas, right around 40% on high volume, and a free throw shooting percentage of over 85%. I think that is the most translatable skill to the NBA, and especially with the player with that size and length in Grady Dick, I think teams will love to have that. I also think he doesn't get enough credit for his athleticism and ability to attack the rim. He doesn't throw down a lot of just power dunks, like a lot of people look for, but I think he's a good finisher, and that's another thing I think translates well to the NBA. My number 9 player in this class is the 6'9" forward from UCF, Taylor Hendricks. Hendricks has great size and athleticism for the NBA, and I didn't know he had this, but he's right below 40% from 3 on the season, so I think the shooting upside's definitely there. The one thing that really jumps out to me about him is his defensive versatility. I do think he's definitely better as an inside defender and has shown real upside with rim protection. I think he moves his feet well and is able to guard on the perimeter, and I think that's going to translate really well. My number 8 player is the 6'4" guard from Kentucky, Cason Wallace. Wallace averaged right around 12, 4, and 4 on the season, so you can see that he has a pretty diverse game. The big thing that really jumps out to me is his defense, as I think he's one of the better defensive guard prospects we've seen in the past handful of drafts. I think that teams would love to have him regardless of if they're trying to contend or just wanting to rebuild. I think he fits in pretty seamlessly with almost any team and can guard the other team's best guard on basically any given night. My number 7 prospect is the 6'7" wing/forward from Villanova, Cam Whitmore. Whitmore is just a tank. His type of athleticism that he has is extremely rare, and I think his combination of fluidity and power is just remarkable. He's shown the ability to shoot at certain times at Villanova, but the team setup there this season was just weird, so it was kind of hard to get a feel for what he'll want to do at the next level, but I think with his raw tools, he's a pretty seamless fit for a lot of teams and really setting himself up for a real nice NBA career. My number 6 prospect is the 6'7" guard from the Overtime Elite, Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson is the twin brother of Azar Thompson that I talked about earlier, and a lot of the same things can be said about him in my opinion. He's playing against kids in a glorified pickup game, and it's just hard to get a real read on what will be able to translate effectively to the NBA. But I do think he's a little more versatile than his brother, mainly with his playmaking, as I think he will be asked to be a primary ball handler, and he has that same type of athleticism that kind of drops your jaw. My number 5 player is the 6'8" guard from Arkansas, Anthony Black. Black doesn't only have the coolest hair in this draft class, but I also think he's one of, if not the most versatile players in the whole draft. Standing at 6'8" and being a primary playmaker has been proven to be really effective in the NBA, especially with rookies over the past few seasons like we saw with Josh Giddey. I think that their games are kind of similar, but Anthony Black does have a little bit of a quicker step and a little more athleticism. I wouldn't expect him to be as productive as Giddey this early in his career, but I think that teams can put him in a position to become one of the better playmakers, if not the best playmaker from this draft class. My number 4 prospect is the 6'8" forward/big from Houston, Jarris Walker. I think that Walker's defensive upside is pretty limitless as how I'm looking at him right now. The offensive game was so-so at Houston, but that team was so loaded it was hard to really get a good grip of what he's capable of. He showed some scoring upside in certain games, but we really missed out on being able to see his playmaking. And coming into the year, I thought that's what made him so special as a high school prospect. I'm expecting to see the playmaking opportunities really expand at the next level, and his physicality combined with that makes him just a great prospect in my eyes. My number 3 prospect is the 6'9" wing/forward from Alabama, Brandon Miller. Miller's able to really kind of do it all, standing at 6'9", and I think his biggest upside is with his shooting, as he's shown that he can be a good catch and shoot player or even shooting off the dribble. I also think his defensive upside's there with his real lengthy arms and his ability to move his feet. And while a lot of people have kind of been pointing at him for some legal trouble, I don't think that that'll make too much of a difference to a lot of teams, as he was proven to be innocent. I hope for the best. I hope that that stays the same, but his upside is something that I don't think could really fall past 3. My number 2 player is the 6'2" guard out of the G League Ignite, Scoot Henderson. Scoot, in my opinion, is the best point guard prospect we've seen since Kyrie Irving. I got to watch him play in person earlier this season, and I haven't seen that combination of speed, power, and just overall athleticism in a point guard since Russell Westbrook. His power going up for dunks and on fast breaks, finishing at the rim, is just eye-opening. And while his shooting percentages, even that around the rim, has been a little disappointing this season, he's playing in the G League Ignite as their best player, so you know all the defensive focus is going towards him. I would not let him fall past 2 regardless of the team, even if they had a point guard. And I know a lot of people have been discussing Brandon Miller taking the 2 spot, but I think that that would be a big mistake to pass on Scoot. My number 1 player, surprise, surprise, is the 7'4" big from Metropolitans 99, Victor Wembanyama. I feel like we all have a pretty good grasp on Victor Wembanyama at this point, but his game is just unbelievable to watch. He shoots, dribbles, blocks shots, dunks, anything he has close to the rim. He's just unlike anything we've ever seen. That type of versatility, both on offense and defense, is huge when drafting players. And when a player has all of that in a 7'4" body frame, of course he's going to go number 1. He has to go number 1. He's been compared to the best prospect we've seen since LeBron James, which I'm a LeBron guy. I think LeBron's better, but just getting those remarks being made about him is insanity. Thanks for watching my updated top 30. If you haven't yet, be sure to follow us on Twitter at @plusbball. And I just want to wish everyone whose teams are still in the playoffs best of luck. And if you're not there, best of luck in the draft. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Jace. Thanks for watching Plus Basketball.